The rain came down like the world was weeping. Her name was Alara Quinn, a young mother in her late 20s, clutching the steering wheel of an old maroon sedan that coughed more than it purred. The baby seat behind her was quiet now. Her daughter, Ivy, barely a year old, sleeping through the storm that had no mercy. Alara's hands trembled as the car sputtered, shuddered, and died on a stretch of road that seemed to stretch into forever. She flicked on the hazard lights, but they barely blinked. The battery was almost gone too, and just like that, she was stranded. No cell service, no houses in sight, no passing cars that cared to stop. The rain blurred the world into streaks of silver and gray. Her breath fogged the glass. Ivy stirred and whimpered, sensing her mother's fear. Alara whispered, "It's okay, baby, Mommy's got you." But the words felt like lies. The forgotten road. Hours passed. Dozens of cars went by, their headlights slicing through rain, reflections shimmering for a moment before fading into nothing. She waved. She cried out. She even tried standing near the road with her hands up. No one stopped. People looked, but didn't see. And with each minute, hope sank deeper into the cold puddles gathering around her feet. When the rain eased into a drizzle, Alara tried one more time to start the car. Nothing. Only the pitiful sound of the engine gasping. She closed her eyes and fought tears. "Please," she whispered. "I just need to get home." Ivy began to cry softly in the back seat. That small, helpless sound that could crack even the hardest heart. But the highway stayed indifferent, until a pair of headlights slowed, then stopped. Through the blur of her tears, Alara saw an old blue pickup truck. Rust on the edges, dented door, but steady headlights that didn't blind, they comforted. The man who stepped out, a tall man in his late 30s, stepped out, wearing a grease-stained jacket, oil still fresh on his hands. His eyes were gentle but tired, the kind that had seen too many hard days but never lost kindness. He knocked softly on her window. "Ma'am, you all right in there?" Alara hesitated. Fear flickered. After all, who could she trust on a lonely road? He noticed her hesitation and took a small step back, keeping his voice calm. "My name's Milo Hart, mechanic over in Silverpine Garage, 2 miles up that way." He pointed toward the misty ridge behind him. "Mind if I take a look at your car? You don't gotta get out." His tone wasn't pushy, wasn't pitying. It was respectful. And maybe that's why Alara slowly nodded. He smiled softly, pulling a small flashlight from his pocket. Within minutes, he had the hood open. A stranger's hands. Milo's movements were patient, practiced. He spoke to himself in low murmurs, like the car was listening. "All right, sweetheart, what did they do to you?" He checked the belts, the battery, the fuel line. When he straightened up, the rain dripping off his cap, he sighed. "Bad alternator. You're not going anywhere tonight." Alara's stomach dropped. "Oh no. My baby, I don't have anywhere to." He raised a hand gently. "It's okay. There's a diner not far up. I can tow you there and make sure you both get food and heat." Alara blinked. "You'd do that? For strangers?" He shrugged, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Ain't no such thing as strangers when someone's stranded in the rain." That line, it landed deep in her heart. A ride in the rain. Milo hooked up her car to his truck and helped her carry Ivy, still wrapped in a thin blanket, to the passenger seat. The truck smelled faintly of engine oil, rain, and coffee. A faded photo hung from the rearview mirror. An older man smiling, arm around a teenage boy who looked a lot like Milo. As they drove through the rain, Alara whispered, "You do this often? Helping people like me?" Milo chuckled softly. "Can't drive past someone in trouble. My old man, he'd haunt me if I did." She smiled faintly. "He sounds like a good man." "He was," Milo said quietly, "taught me that fixing things don't stop at engines." The diner. They pulled into a small roadside diner, its neon sign flickering open through the mist. Milo parked and hurried to open her door, shielding her and Ivy with his jacket as they ran inside. Warmth wrapped around them. The scent of coffee and fresh pie filled the air. A kind-faced waitress looked up. "Rough night, honey?" Alara nodded weakly. Milo spoke. "Car broke down on the ridge. They need a place to sit and a warm meal. Put it on my tab." Alara protested. "Oh no, please, you've done enough." But Milo just smiled. "Let me do this much. You look like you've been fighting the world alone for too long." The words broke something inside her. Tears welled up before she could stop them. She whispered, "I didn't think anyone would stop." He looked at her steady, kind. "I almost didn't, but something told me to look twice." 2 lives in a booth. While Ivy slept in her stroller beside them, Alara told him her story between sips of warm tea. She'd lost her husband a year ago in a construction accident. The insurance barely covered the funeral. She'd been working 2 jobs, trying to keep a roof over their heads. That night, she was driving home from her second shift when the car gave out. "I kept thinking, maybe people just don't stop anymore," she said, voice cracking. "Everyone's too busy to care." Milo nodded slowly. "I used to think that too, until my dad's accident." He stared at the raindrops sliding down the diner window. Truck flipped on a back road. Took hours before someone stopped. But they did. A farmer and his wife. They didn't know him, but they stayed till help came. Saved his life. He looked at her. Sometimes, one stop changes everything, repairing more than cars. When the storm finally calmed, it was past midnight. Ivy slept soundly, full and warm. Milo glanced at the clock. "Garage is closed now, but first thing in the morning, I'll get your car running." Alara tried to thank him again, but he waved it off. "Save it for after it starts." The waitress came by, whispering, "He does this often, you know? Folks stranded, single moms, travelers. Never takes payment unless it's for parts. Says he's just doing what's right." Alara looked at him from across the booth. The man with rough hands and a gentle soul, and felt something she hadn't in a long time, safe. The morning after. The next morning, sunlight poured across the wet pavement. Milo was already under her hood, humming quietly as he worked. Alara stood nearby, holding Ivy, watching as he tightened the last bolt. "Try it now," he called. The engine roared back to life. Alara gasped, tears filling her eyes. "You really did it." He wiped his hands on a rag and smiled. "Told you she just needed a little faith." She hesitated, then said softly, "Thank you, Milo, for everything. I don't know how to repay you." He looked at her, kind, steady. "You already did. You reminded me why I do this. The goodbye that wasn't goodbye." As she got into the driver's seat, Alara felt her heart ache. It felt wrong to just drive away from someone who had done so much. Milo noticed. "Hey," he said, leaning on the door. "You take care of that little one, and when you see someone stuck on the road, stop. That's how you repay me." Alara nodded, voice trembling. "I will." He tipped his cap, stepping back as her car pulled away. Strong, steady, alive again. In the rearview mirror, she saw him watching, the morning light catching on his jacket. And though they were strangers, she knew she'd remember that face forever. It had been 3 months since that night, the night a mechanic named Milo Hart stopped when no one else would. Alara Quinn often thought about him when she drove that same highway again, this time without fear. Her old car, once on its last breath, now purred like it had been given a second life, just like her. She had found a small job closer to home, finally spending her evenings with baby Ivy instead of racing against time. But even with life inching toward peace, one thought wouldn't leave her mind. How do you repay kindness that saves you? She hadn't found an answer yet, but she was about to, in a way that neither she nor Milo could ever have imagined. A stranger in the rain again. It was late one afternoon, clouds gathering in the distance again. Alara was driving back from the grocery store when she noticed a figure on the shoulder of the road. A young man, drenched, waving for help beside a broken-down van. Her heart skipped. It was almost the same place she'd been stranded that night. Without thinking twice, she pulled over. The man looked startled when she rolled down the window. "You okay?" she called out. He sighed, rubbing his face. "Battery's dead, and my phone's out of charge. I've been standing here an hour. Everyone just drives by. Alara smiled softly. Not everyone. She popped open her trunk. I've got jumper cables. Let's see if we can get you moving. The man blinked, surprised. You know how to do that? Alara laughed. I had a good teacher. And as she connected the cables, her hands steady, the memory of Milo teaching her how to do it at the diner parking lot flashed in her mind. His voice echoed, You never know when someone else might need you to stop. The van started with a rumble. The young man's face lit up. You're a lifesaver. Thank you. Alara shrugged. Just returning the favor. When he asked her name, she smiled. Alara Quinn. He introduced himself as Tom Reyes, a traveling musician heading to a gig in a nearby town. As he drove away, he leaned out the window. I won't forget this. She watched him disappear down the road, and for the first time, she understood. Kindness didn't need to be repaid. It just needed to keep moving. Meanwhile, the mechanic struggles. Back in Silverpine, Milo Hart's life wasn't as easy as he made it look. His small garage, the one his father built, was barely holding on. Big auto shops were taking most of the business now, and his rent had just gone up. But Milo never turned anyone away. People came in broke, desperate, and he always found a way to help. Even if it meant staying up past midnight fixing cars for free. He'd tell himself, Dad didn't raise me to count dollars when someone's stranded. Still, as he locked up one night, a letter slipped under the garage door caught his eye. No return address. Just a folded piece of paper inside and a check. For the man who stopped when no one else did. Use this to help more people like you helped me. EQ. Milo froze, realizing who it was from. The check was enough to cover 3 months of rent, and buy new tools. He smiled to himself, shaking his head. You didn't have to do that, Alara. But in his heart, he knew. That's how kindness works. It finds its way home, even when you don't ask for it. Ripples in the water. Weeks passed. Milo used that money not to pad his pockets, but to start something small yet powerful. A pay-it-forward repair fund. He put a sign outside his shop that read, If you're stuck and short, don't worry. Someone's already paid for your fix. People were skeptical at first, then moved, then inspired. Word spread fast, through truckers, locals, travelers. Some left donations anonymously. Others offered free labor. Before long, the garage became more than a business. It became a shelter for stories. Stories of help. A single mother whose car broke down on the way to her child's school. Milo repaired it without charge. A retired teacher with arthritis. He adjusted her car's steering and refused her payment. A teenage boy, engine blown before a job interview. Milo fixed it overnight. He'd just smile and say, Someone helped me once. Now I'm just passing it on. And though no one knew it, every time he said those words, he was thinking of that night. The storm, the baby, and the woman who thought no one would stop. A musician returns. One day, a familiar blue van pulled up outside the garage. It was Tom Reyes, the same young musician Alara had helped weeks ago. He stepped out, grinning. You must be Milo Hart. Milo looked puzzled. That's me. You've been here before. Tom shook his head. No, but a friend of mine told me about you. Said you helped her when she was stranded. Alara Quinn. At that, Milo's expression softened instantly. Ah, Alara. How's she doing? She's great, Tom said. Actually, she helped me the same way. Said she learned it from a mechanic who changed everything. Milo chuckled. Sounds like her. Tom scratched his head. Thing is, my van's been acting up again, and I've got a concert tonight. I'm short on cash, though. Milo waved his hand. You're covered. Someone already paid it forward. Tom blinked. Wait, really? Milo smiled. That's how this shop works. As Milo worked on the van, Tom strummed his guitar softly, filling the garage with warm, soothing notes. Before he left, he said, You've built something special here, man. People talk about this place like it's a miracle. Milo grinned. Nah, just a few good hearts doing what they can. But deep down, he felt something stirring. A pride that wasn't about fixing cars, but fixing faith. The night of the storm, One night, months later, another storm hit Silverpine, harder than the last. Power lines down, roads flooded, and the small town cut off from the main highway. Milo stayed in his garage late, keeping the lights running off a backup generator. He knew people might need help, and he was right. By midnight, his phone buzzed. A call from Tom. His van had broken down again, this time with his bandmates inside, stranded just outside town. Without hesitation, Milo jumped into his truck and drove out. The wind howled, rain lashing the windshield. When he reached them, the van was half submerged in a flooded ditch. "Everyone okay?" he shouted. "Yeah," Tom called back. "Just cold and scared." Milo threw ropes, pulled the van out with his truck, then drove the musicians back to his garage to warm up. He handed them dry blankets, made coffee, and worked through the night repairing the van again. When dawn broke, Tom placed his guitar case on the counter and said, "You've done more than fix my van, Milo. You've kept our dream alive." He opened the case, revealing not cash, but a note and a folded flyer. "Silverpine Charity Concert for the Pay It Forward Garage." Milo blinked. "You're serious?" Tom smiled. "You helped us when no one else would. Now it's our turn." The town that remembered. A month later, hundreds of people gathered at the small Silverpine Park. Musicians played, families laughed, and on the stage, Tom shared the story. The woman who stopped, the mechanic who changed everything, and the kindness that kept traveling like a song with no end. Milo stood in the crowd, his cap pulled low, embarrassed but moved. When Tom pointed him out, the crowd applauded, not for fame, but for faith. The concert raised enough money to rebuild the garage's foundation and expand the fund into a community outreach program, offering free repairs for those in need. When Alara arrived later that day with Ivy in her arms, Milo froze in surprise.